On the ground in Indy, it is the epicenter of the NFL universe all week. Combine workouts kick off tomorrow with the front seven, and edge rushers are at a premium in today's NFL. That's how Ohio State's Vrabel Reese says he wants to be evaluated as opposed to being an off-ball linebacker. He and fellow pass rusher David Bailey spoke to our Kimberly Martin about how they can stand out in Indy.
Just to showcase my ability. You know, I think I'm a pretty athletic guy, and it's just good to showcase that here and run fast here. I think I just got to be myself. I think I'm athletic, and I really just see me. So I'm not focused on separating myself from nobody, but just focused on being the best me, and right now I feel good.
I feel like I'm not really scratching the surface of what I can become. I feel like I took a big step from junior year to senior year in terms of my production, but also just in terms of like my maturity and being a student of the game. So I feel like I can keep growing on that. Prior to that, I was taking football seriously, but you're a kid, coming freshman year, you're just kind of messing around, having a lot of fun. So, now I'm a pro. Like now I'm serious about the game. So, I feel like I get underneath a good staff, a good scheme, and I could be a dominant person.
Boog, we're talking D linemen, and you made a living with your hand in the dirt. When you look at Reese and Bailey, how do their skill sets compare?
Well, both of their skill sets are outstanding. I think, if you're a GM, what you're going to figure out with Vrabel Reese is where does he project? Because we know he's a tremendous athlete, outstanding. He's probably going to come in 6'4", 240, 245 pounds. He may be the most explosive guy up front, but he's kind of been an off-the-ball linebacker. He's never really put his hand in the dirt and been a full-time edge defender. So you have to project what he's going to be using all those traits that he has. When you look at David Bailey, you don't have to project because you saw it. I mean, you saw what he was at Stanford. You saw what he is at Texas Tech. Outstanding. His repertoire of pass rush moves is there. You've seen it. You can turn the tape on. You don't have to project. So if you're a GM, are you going with what you know or what you think you know based on what you see in the traits in Reese? And I think that's going to be the question when we get to this draft come in Pittsburgh. Do you want the traits or do you want the guy that you've seen do it time after time again on tape?
Yeah, and to your point, Bailey in 3 years in Palo Alto, 14.5 sacks, a total he matched in 14 games in Lubbock, which is why he could be the first edge rusher, if not the first defensive player off the board. The esteemed Mel Kiper Jr. weighing in on that with his latest mock released yesterday. Zero surprise at the top. Fernando Mendoza can start house hunting in Vegas. Maybe a shock at 2, though. A safety, Caleb Downs, joining Aaron Glenn and the Jets. Downs one of 2 Buckeyes in Mel's top 5, the other being the aforementioned Reese, number 4 overall to Tennessee, and new defensive-minded head coach Robert Saleh. So Schrags, the Jets and Cardinals probably should not expect Fernando Mendoza to be available to them, but with their needs, knowing it's best available otherwise, what should their thought processes be?
Phil, this is actually very fourth wall meta. I am sitting here in the building at Lucas Oil, and all the defensive linemen are walking by me as we speak behind the camera. And I'm going to tell you this in a whisper because I don't want to offend anybody. This isn't the best draft to have the number 2 overall pick because there's no slam dunk number 2 overall pick. I got to be quiet. If Vrabel Reese sees me, I don't want him to come after me. But truthfully, this is one of those weird years where usually there's like a quarterback prospect, and then you got a Myles Garrett, or then you got an Aiden Hutchinson. This might not be that. So you could see a Caleb Downs be elevated to number 2. You could see a Carnell Tate go up all the way to number 2. This is one of those drafts where it's to each his own. There's 31 flavors. You might like David Bailey more than you like Reese, so then take Bailey. There is no slam dunk at any of these as like a Hall of Fame prospect. Myles Garrett isn't in this draft. Joe Thomas isn't in this draft. And there certainly isn't that wide receiver or cornerback in this draft. So it makes it a really tricky spot for the Jets and the Cardinals, who obviously would love to be entertaining the Fernando Mendoza conversation. They sit at number 2, number 3, and it's like, okay, so I guess we like this guy. This is why the workouts matter and why the drills matter and why the interviews matter, because maybe one of these prospects can razzle dazzle and perform and really make their case for why they belong to be the number 2 and number 3 picks off the board.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because we've gotten so used to seeing multiple quarterbacks go at the top of the draft, and this is apparently not a year where that's going to happen. So that not only means that the Jets and Cardinals sitting at 2 and 3 have to think about what the other positions are that they need, but it also means that a trade down to amass more picks is less likely because usually if teams are coming up to that point in the draft, it's for a quarterback, and it doesn't seem like that's going to happen this year. So I think you look at the Jets and you look at Arizona Arizona at 3. The team needs are what they are. The Jets need playmakers on defense. They did not have a single interception, as everyone has heard 100 times since the end of the season. They need playmakers on defense. You could go offensive line there, but the Jets have done well drafting offensive tackles in recent years, so it's not that big of a need. Arizona, whoever's left, your favorite among the offensive tackles or the big defensive playmakers up front. So, yeah, very interesting year in the draft because we've seen multiple quarterbacks go at or near the top of the draft just about every year for a while now, and this year is not going to be like that.
Yeah, and with Aaron Glenn as a head coach for the Jets, it's just staggering. Himself a former first-round pick defensive back. The team could go 17 games without an interception. Defensive back, not a concern in Denver, but a measure of surprise for the Broncos this week. Some news coming out of the Combine after Denver won the AFC West, went all the way to the AFC title game. First, Sean Payton fires longtime colleague Joe Lombardi as OC, then hands play-calling reins to his new OC, Davis Webb, a decision Payton explained yesterday.
He's extremely talented. With regards to play calling, it's something that I think he'll be really good at it. And I know that's like, man, are you going to give up play calling? And I would only do that if I felt like it would help our team. I'll still be involved with what we do offensively, just like what we do defensively. But I do think he has a gift. I think he's real sharp. I'm glad he's on our staff.
Schrags, that's a little surprising. Payton is considered an excellent play caller. I don't know if he's walking past the camera now. Maybe you can say this one with your chest. What do you make of this change in Denver?
Shocking. And I know Sean very well, and I know these other two guys as well know him, and this is what he loves to do. He loves to draw up a play, loves to execute a play, loves to call a play, loves to call a trick play, if we're being honest. To see him actually give up play calling duties, and if he says it, I believe it. And a lot of people are like, he isn't going to actually. If he says it, I believe it. And a lot of this is he was losing Davis Webb if he didn't, right? Like, Davis Webb was the hottest name for all these young offensive coaches as far as, okay, we went through the head coaching cycle. Who's going to be your OC? You see Declan Doyle at 29 years old get hired by the Baltimore Ravens. There was opportunities for Davis Webb across the league to be a play-calling offensive coordinator. So he gets that title, and he gets that responsibility from Sean Payton. I will say this. Pete Carmichael 1 year under Sean Payton did call plays, so it's not unprecedented. Yeah. But when the rubber hits the road and we're talking about an NFC championship game or an AFC championship game, we're talking about a big spot on a fourth down, I'm curious to see who's actually making the final call there.
There's no question, because Peter, you know this. If you've stood on the sideline during a Sean Payton coached game, the receivers and the tight ends and the running backs that come off the field, they don't go more than 2 feet from him because they know he could just put him right back in the next play. It's like you watching a mastermind at work, and to the idea that he would give that up is shocking to a lot of people. It says something about Davis Webb, as Sean explained, and also, it may be the kind of thing you have to do in order to keep Davis Webb as your offensive coordinator in a year in which he did generate a lot of interest as an OC candidate and in some cases as a head coach candidate. So I think what you have here is a situation where, especially if it goes well, Davis Webb becomes an even hotter head coach candidate a year from now, and in that case, it might be a situation where this only is in place for 1 year.
I think there are a couple of things at play here. Schrags, I'm going to see if you can follow me here. Let's take a look at the relationship between Sean Payton and Bo Nix. I saw them a couple of times on the sideline. There were some heated conversations. I wouldn't be surprised if the relationship between Davis Webb and Bo Nix may be just a little bit better from a standpoint of age. The communication gap is a little bit different between Davis Webb and Bo Nix. That's number one. Number two, Graziano, you mentioned the fact that Davis Webb had opportunities to go elsewhere. So when you add this up, like, my job is always to try to figure out the how and the why. Like, why is Sean Payton giving up? Sean Payton just is not going to voluntarily give up play calling. But if you put 2 and 2 together, the relationship between Davis Webb and Bo Nix, and the fact that Davis Webb could have left, hey, how can I keep this guy and keep this simpatico going? Oh, let me give up play calling, let me appease Bo Nix, let me appease Davis Webb, and I'll step back and see if I can keep my hands off of it. I don't know, Schrags, if I'm reading too much into it, but it seems like that could be a possibility of morphing those two things together.
Look, and then there was the whole revealing of the ankle injury and all that. So all you're connecting in the dots is kind of the work that Graz and I like to do and try to put together things. But the truth of the matter is, I think this was survival mode. We love Davis Webb. We don't want him going to a division rival, that's for sure. And if we have to give him some more responsibilities and a new title, maybe we have to give that up for the better of the team.
And Boog, you were talking how and why the Broncos tied a franchise record with 14 wins last season. How, a good number of those fourth quarter comebacks. But why, Sean Payton admitted in Indianapolis, they weren't good enough through 45 minutes of many of those games. Yeah. We've got a lot more than 45 minutes left on NFL Live. Mike Evans will be a free agent this offseason, and Bucs coach Todd Bowles and GM Jason Light said this about getting Evans back.
I'm hoping and praying he comes back. I mean, he's been a Buck his whole life. You know, he's done so much for the city and the team of Tampa Bay that it's unmistakable. But he's earned the right to look around in free agency because he's